Okay.
Uh-oh. Cool. So, becoming a Paul Harris Fellow is a big deal in Rotary. It means that you have either donated $1,000, as I said, or 1,000 points have been designated on your behalf. And we recognize people in Rotary. It's one of the great things about Rotary that we do. We recognize, we celebrate people who step up to different positions and roles and responsibilities in recognition of Paul Harris and the tone he set for this organization so many years ago. We are a service organization. We're all about serving, whether it's to the community, to our clubs, to our vocations, to ourselves. And we want to take this time to specifically recognize one of us here today who recently stepped up to a position of leadership on the board. And that can be a challenging thing sometimes. People tend to run away, it seems, from responsibility these days. And yes, that was meant for a little bit of humor, but we can't do that in Rotary. We need leadership. We need people to step up into positions of responsibility. And so it gives me great pleasure to recognize one of our newer members who's been a Rotarian for only about a year, I believe, but has recently stepped up to a position of leadership on our board. And so without further ado, Rebecca, I'm gonna have, Kelly, can you affix this pin to Rebecca? Thank you. I don't want to stab her. I would definitely do it. So.
Start the new year on.
Yeah, right?
I'm gonna pin you.
Oh,
So what's worse, like fumbling or stabbing?
no. Wait a minute, I want to grab a picture.
No. Optimal position. No. Kevin hates that.
I take up too much bandwidth.
I'm gonna pin it to your lapel or collar or whatever that is.
see blood.
Oh, where? Oh, there we go.
Okay, please.
Turn his head, let's turn his head the right way.
All appreciates it. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Kelly. So, do you want to make announcements?
You want to do the other two?
No.
Oh, okay. I was gonna have her give the.
Oh, by all means, yeah, this is your show, ma'am. Do it.
So we would, in there is an pen, so we can initiate our. We have a couple of announcements, and then Kevin will take back over again. Pat's Stump, Jim Stump is one of our members who has not been able to be here because his wife underwent surgery for a rotator cuff injury. So she's on her 5th PT today. They said it's been slow going, but they said it can take up to a year to really recover. So he said he will be here when he can, but she is his first priority, which it should be. Shalu had her baby, she had a baby boy,
So
and I hope I can say it right, you wanna say it?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good. Yeah.
And he's beautiful, and let's see if I can get share the screen real fast. Oh, maybe I can't find it up here. But I do have this picture up here, I will show it at some point. We need somebody, because of the new situation here, the board has found some other restaurants that we can use for catering purposes, but we need somebody to really take over that job, calling the restaurants and setting them up for a month or 3 months. So if anybody's willing to, oh, thank you. Can you see that, please?
Like I'm not sure it's the right angle. But.
Yeah, I can see this. So if anybody would be willing to step up and take over that, that would be wonderful. Helen, back to you.
Okay.
No, it's.
Thank you. Taylor, I'm gonna ask you to come on up, buddy.
Oh, wait, which Taylor? Oh, there's two.
That's right.
Taylors,
Little
right?
Taylor and Big Taylor. That's
Taylor
Taylor.
Furlong, we're doing
Oh, we're doing.
induction here. Come on over here, and I want you to get into the camera here because I want people to be able to see you as opposed to me. Hey, Allison, how are you? Allison Burkett. We got two Allisons.
Hey.
First of all, this is gonna be a fly by the seat of your pants induction. I did not prepare for this. I didn't realize we were doing it today, but it doesn't matter because becoming a member of Rotary is a really big deal. It is a huge honor. We are so happy to have this young man who has already demonstrated a level of commitment to Rotary that is admirable. He's volunteered on several occasions at MedAssist and at other things that we were doing. He's just a fantastic young man with a commitment to service, and that's what we need. He has energy, he has vigor, he has excitement, and we want today to recognize the fact that you are being inducted not only into this Rotary Club, but into Rotary organization. By virtue of your membership as a Rotarian, you're going to be welcome into any of our 35,000 clubs worldwide, now with 1.4 million members.
You got one down, so
You got one down, that's right. But with that comes a pretty awesome responsibility. And that includes not only the service aspect of Rotary, but networking with all of your friends and fellow Rotarians here in this club, networking with other people in the community, advocating for Rotary whenever and wherever you can, most of all, just being a good person. And we know that you're halfway there already. You are ready to rock and roll. On behalf of the Dilworth Rotary Club of Charlotte South End, I want to welcome and let's recognize Taylor Furlong as our newest Rotarian. I think I'm gonna pin it. Yeah.
Allison, would you like to say
While
something?
you're doing that,
Yeah.
you missed the most important thing about Taylor. I never
I'll say
questioned,
something
I
good.
never questioned you. The guy graduated from University of Massachusetts in Amherst, which is my alma mater. That's gotta be the best part of his life.
We were trying to keep that part quiet, but only because we didn't want him to become too closely associated with you.
We want Allison to say,
Yes, Allison is,
Impact Club.
Taylor is actually a member of the Impact Club, so we are gonna put this on you, buddy.
Really want it?
Okay.
Sorry, there are two Allisons.
Yeah, and it's spelled exactly the same way, which is unusual, right?
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey Taylor, on behalf of the Impact Club, I just wanted to welcome you, and we look forward to meeting you and getting to know you, and doing service together. So welcome. Thank you.
I look forward to it, yeah.
Okay.
You have announcements?
Announcements, just a couple of announcements. Tom Smith, who, as all of you know, is our Polio Plus chairperson for the district, sent out some information yesterday about where we stand with Polio Plus collections. He mentioned the top 5 clubs, and I think the 5th club had about $22,350 in Polio Plus contributions for the year. We missed it by that much because we're literally at about $2,300. So we are we're very close to that, and I just want to say thank you to all of you who contributed to the Polio Plus. foundation, to the Rotary Foundation in support of Polio Plus, and for all of your other contributions. I was looking at our CART contributions, and for our guests, CART is Coins for Alzheimer's Research Trust, and we have these little blue buckets on our table. We collect money for CART and research into combating Alzheimer's. It's one of Rotary's, at least in this particular area. Not a nationwide event for Rotary yet, but it is very important in this area. We do everything we can to help the research into fighting Alzheimer's. So we are at about $1,300 for the year for our CART contributions, and hats off to all of you who's contributed in helping us to get to these points. So that's really all I have, man.
Hey, thank you. Martha, interrupt your eating?
Oh, happy dollar.
Yeah, you don't have to do the,
Happy.
happy. Allison, you don't know, we pass around a hat for anybody who wants to spend $1 or $2 and tell us something positive in the dollars. And that all goes to nonprofits in the area.
And our happy dollars go to a variety of things. They go to supporting not just polio, but different organizations from time to time. So.
Hi, Kate's happy. Thank you all for coming to the party at my house. I've had a great time. But I do want to say that there is the Sign Up Genius, which is wonderful because it helps you figure out who's coming. But do not ever stay away because you don't know whether you signed up on Sign Up Genius. There'll always be enough for everybody to drop in. So I know we had a couple who weren't able to come or who didn't come because of that, and I feel badly about it. But anyhow, for the rest of us, we had a really good time. Thank you all.
Awesome. And you had a good turnout for that.
Yeah.
Good turnout. And there were people who were sick.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, 2023.
2023.
That says it all.
I'm Ralph Hills and I'm Raleigh's father, and what makes me so wonderfully happy is to, one, come to the club, but secondly, my father was in Spartanburg, South Carolina, Rotarian there for 35 years, and so my dad was a Rotarian in Spartanburg and got me interested in the club. Was 33 years old, and I had no idea about Rotary. And he said, Ralph, it's something you've got to do. I've done it. So I joined the club, and first year I learned a lot about it, but the biggest thing that made a difference to me was the service aspect. I had no idea. And what was incredible in my life, I met wonderful people throughout, but in Rotary, I got an understanding through mentorship from everyone explaining to me how important philanthropy was, and the stories I learned and were explained, and the joy I got out of contributing back was invaluable. So it was Riley turned 33, and it was I talked to him about Rotary. We moved recently from Spartanburg to Columbia, so I'm going to join the club there, which I'm really excited about. So I said, Riley, you really need to join the community in Columbia, and especially Rotary. Please consider. So thank you all. I know he's in great hands, and look forward to hopefully visiting again.
Awesome.
I want to celebrate a whole bunch of things.
Right, Howard?
We're all celebrating still, I think, a little bit, New Year's Eve, New Year's. And it reminds me that New Year's is one of those rare things that looks both ways at the same time. As we come up to January, you look backwards at Christmas and all of the things of last year. And hopefully you look forward to what is yet to come. That's Not too much, what's yet to come. I think the celebration, this club, the enthusiasm I have felt in 30-some years, it hasn't died down, it continues to build up. So here's to what you just said about Rotary, for your 30-some years, I did it. And I want to say, here's looking forward to the years ahead, not the years gone by. We look gone by to all those wonderful people that preceded us, but who built it for us. Don't stop with the past. Let's look at the future.
Happy with all our two things. Happy that we're in a new location.
Yeah.
And happy that it's 2023.
Yeah. Hey, Martin. You know that, I'm sorry, David.
I'm happy I made it here before 1 o'clock.
I didn't even know you were here. He's like a, shake shifter. It's the beard. That's what it is. Right? I just want to say very quickly, I am so happy for so many things. I'm happy for Riley. I'm happy for Ralph. Ralph, your words were fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. I'm happy for all of y'all being here. I'm happy that Kate was just so welcoming in her home for the party that Jenny and I couldn't miss because one of us, I was sick, I know that. I'm just happy to see everybody here. I'm happy we're in this new space. Allison, Adams, thank you so much for being our speaker today. Thank you for joining us. It's a little early. She's out in California, so I am just grateful, and I will make my contribution online. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me.
$20 worth.
So I'm happy, blessed, grateful to have all of you in my life right now. Thank you for having me. I've gotten to know a lot of you over the past couple of weeks during events, service opportunities, lunches. And I really took the holiday season, Christmas season to really reflect on what makes a good community citizen. And it's really giving back through philanthropic activities, setting that ideal and really sharing your values to your community. And that's something I really wanted to get a part of, really participate in the new year. And what better opportunity than to join this club, all of your efforts and all of your causes. So I'm thankful.
Well said. I think we have a new spokesperson for the club.
Just restored our faith in the next generation. All right, so, well, I'm gonna have to put more money in. Welcome to Taylor number 2. Promising Pages is going to be welcoming a new staff member, team member on Monday, so I am incredibly thankful. I don't know if we can afford to bring him on as Rotary. We'll see. David.
Welcome to Taylor, welcome to Riley, your family, good to have all you with. We're excited about that, excited to have us with us, and also being our new space. And I think we need to give a lot of thanks to Kevin and Jenny, because a lot of people spend a lot of time to do this in our board, but they spent an extra lot of time to move us over here. So thank you very much for all.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, we must have, we'll top $500 easy today, right?
Okay, Kevin, would you like to introduce our speaker?
Are we gonna do invocation?
Oh, you made it, I'm sorry. We have Taylor here with the invocation.
Taylor number 1.
I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. I wrote a haiku for this. So, new year and new space. Hooray! New technology. Kelly, cuss no more. Do I do that congratulations? Or do we already?
We did that. Thank you so much.
We're also in a church, so I have to be careful.
Right?
Kelly Club's no more. I think we need to eliminate that.
Oh my God.
We are, hey, Taylor, please send that to Jenny because that's gotta go in the news.
Oh, yeah.
An ode to Kelly.
Or a haiku by Mr. Hat.
Yeah.
He returns.
All right, folks, it gives me great honor to introduce our speaker today, Allison Adams, who, as I mentioned, is joining us from the West Coast. So she's on Pacific time, and we are so grateful for her being here. If you didn't have an opportunity to read about her, I'm just gonna recite briefly what appeared in our newsletter. And Allison, which I think is important, she's gonna talk about her project, which involves portraying vibrant women in our history and her characterizations of these women through her art. I think it's especially significant given that this is the theme of our first female president, Jennifer Jones, in empowering women. She actually carried it over from the previous year because it was the previous president Shaker's presidential initiative as well in terms of empowering women. Empowering girls in particular. I had the opportunity to listen to President Jennifer yesterday on a call about empowering women, and she had her 11-year-old niece there with her on the call, and it was so cute because her 11-year-old niece, whose name is Olivia, by the way, said, difference is good in our world, and she's all about helping girls to grow into becoming strong women and role models for all of us. So Allison began her project simply as a search for inspiration. She was recently widowed and began to focus on the next chapter of her life as a single parent. She found strength and empowerment in the stories of trailblazing women through history and began to paint portraits of these women, hoping to bring some vibrancy and modernity into the old black and white photographs she found. Many of these are women she admired from an early age, and many of them were new to her. It's through her work that she hopes to capture some of the spirits of these women who would certainly be cheering us on today. As we listen to their voices and look into their eyes, we are reminded of our heritage as women and girls, passionate, courageous, determined, innovative, intelligent, creative, caring, fierce. So it gives me great pleasure to welcome Allison Adams. Thank you, Allison, for being here.
Oh, thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much for inviting me. And it's fun to listen to what's the inner workings of the club too, and start the day with poetry. As an artist, I think that's a great way to start the day. And I'm just going to show you really quickly, because I just made prints of this last night, a new painting I've made. It's Charlotte Bronte. But when I realized that you are so close to Charlotte, I thought I would share. So yeah. I'm not very technical, except for the fact that I have a computer and I know how to get the camera to work. But everything I have here will just sort of be shown, like pictures up to the screen. I hope that's okay. All right, so yeah, thank you. That introduction was lovely. I guess I wrote it, but it's funny to hear it back because I wrote it some time ago, and the list keeps going on. Yes, we are all of those things. We are all of those. That list of powerful adjectives. So my story, as I am coming, from Southern California, it's almost 9:30 here in the morning, and we just got through a massive rainstorm, so the sun's out, and just letting you know where I am. But yeah, so I am a painter. I started that project, the Groundbreaking Girls Project, at the very end of 2016. So I guess the 2017. So I guess, what is that? Doing the math, is that 5 years?
6 years.
Right? 6 years ago? I don't know, 7, but it's all a blur now. I never expected, well, it's not that I didn't expect it to go so long. It was hard for me to envision out in the future because, as Kevin mentioned, I had lost my husband at the very beginning of this project. And, even just talking about these things now, looking back and recognizing the body of work that I've made in the last 7 years is, it's really remarkable how like I have changed through the project. So all I have to do is look back at some of these pictures and remember what I was thinking when I was making that portrait. And so I was hoping that I could just show a little film, if you don't mind, first. And you can get this film someone made about my work when I first started it. And I was really lucky to have a wonderful filmmaker come, and it's been in a bunch of festivals this year. So for some reason, the story is still resonating, even though it's some years later from when we made it. So it's only like 5 minutes long. And if you don't mind just watching that, it is a little bit, there might be some sad bits. So just warning you, but we can just tell that. And then I think I can come back and talk about the work I've made since then. Can we do that? Great.
We're not getting any sound there.
Volume on.
Huh?
Volume up.
It is on mine, I don't know.
If there's no sound, we can skip that.
You have to share with sound, Jenny.
Who's sharing?
Could you share? I am sharing.
So if you stop sharing, and then there's a checkbox there where you said, share with sound.
We're gonna start over, Allison.
Okay.
Hey. Aha, thank you.
This is why we keep Allison around.
I always enjoyed painting and drawing as a kid. It came very naturally to me, but I wanted to be an actress. So that's what I pursued. As a career choice, I thought it would be better because there was somebody to direct you, there was someone to write the roles, and I didn't trust my own imagination. I guess the irony is that later on, when I got thrown back into painting again, I realized I like this because I can have my own ideas. I always painted, but marriage happened and kids came, and I didn't make it my career. But then, almost 3 years ago, my husband was driving home, and we got a knock on the door. They said, you have to get to the hospital right away. It's really bad. He had a brain injury that made it so that he couldn't really remember us. And he never came home again after that. In that period, we relied on art. I really found that painting had been there for me all along. Now that I'm on this other end of it, I'm thinking, okay, what was it that kept me going? It was inspiration. All right, what's inspiration? What's inspiring? And I talked to somebody who was really inspired by Eleanor Roosevelt. And she just lit up when she would talk about her. I'm like, I think I'm gonna paint Eleanor Roosevelt. So I painted her, and suddenly I imagined, what if I painted other ladies too? And again, it was just going to be something for me, something to kind of work out my grief, keep myself busy while I was figuring out what I was going to do next. And then it just got out of control. And as I learned about their stories, I felt so empowered. I felt like these are people who overcame great adversity. They did so much good. Harriet Tubman, for example, she freed 1,000 slaves, and she was brain injured as a little girl, and so that affected me because I knew about brain injury. And I thought, how how amazing for someone to overcome something like that and then be able to be so brave. There are times where I feel scared. Like, what am I doing? I gotta support this family, and this is what I'm making my job. But I hear them telling me to persist, and I agree. I agree with them. I'm like, you're right, I can do this. And so instead of tearing myself down like I normally would do in the past, my old self always being like, I'm not good enough, I'm not this enough, I allow them to lift me up. And also, I want to share these stories with my daughter. I want to teach her that there's these mentors for you too, for all of us. And so I feel like by telling these stories, it's a reminder that you have this power in you too. There's so much more available to us than what we see and who we see. We have the great cloud of witnesses always around, waiting for us to ask some questions.
Wow.
Yeah. Thanks. I know I was getting emotional. Oh, excuse me, that's gross. getting very
That's
emotional.
life, baby, that's
It's the full moon. It's the full moon. Yeah, it's cool though. It's really cool to even watch that again with you, because as we get older, we have chances to look back at different times and how you felt about things at different times, and I can see even now in my life, after doing so many more paintings over the years, how that, like I was talking about in the film, like there's almost a call. I feel like if we can tap into our role models, they don't have to be living role models. They can be our ancestors. This is, just looking at these greats in history. It really, the ones that we are attracted to learning about, that there's something interesting about them, to me, that means it's a reflection of something in yourself. That's how we notice. Even sometimes when we don't like something in someone, it's probably a reflection of something in ourselves, and to notice that too. But I can see after spending all this time with these paintings, how it's changed me. And it's like having been going into the stories of history in such a personal way, has really helped me to even see my fellow man and woman as heroic people. You know what I mean? If you surround yourself with a history of people who have done great things and have overcome great things, you start to see the human race that way. And I think as someone who didn't grow up with a lot of personal role models in my community that I felt like I could really feel close to, or try to follow, I think having these stories of women who have lived before, it created my own arsenal of, wisdom keepers in a sense. And I don't even know where, I guess I'll just start to show you some of the art I've made since then, and you can sort of see the variety. So here we have a picture I made this year of Nina Simone. So what will happen is when I'm making a painting of someone, I'll have, might be someone I already knew about, like I already loved her music before. She was a great musician, singer, and piano player. But when I'm painting a painting, I learn more because I'm doing something with my body and I'm taking the time. I'm not just like reading it out of a book. I'm taking the time to engage with this sort of energy and this history of someone. So I might listen to it, like I listened to a lot of her music and I watched a lot of videos. And what happens with me is I almost feel like I've had a conversation with the person. Like, so she may be gone, but I know anytime you listen to, her music, you can sort of hear her spirit and you can feel her spirit. So she's not really gone, she's still there on some level that we can engage with, at least in our imaginations. And so it's just been such an incredible journey for me to learn about so many people in such a personal way. And I'm finding even today, like I've overcome most of my grief with my husband. And I mean, I guess you always have a little bit of it come up here and there when there's been a loss in the family, but I really do feel like a different person than I was then when in the video, that was some years ago. And I'm so grateful just looking back and thinking, how could I have known a project like this would be so life-giving for me, and really make me feel like I'm a part of this incredible sisterhood. Yeah. That is not, we just have so much access to this, and the more we can educate people about the women of history. I mean, the men of history are amazing too. It's that we've known their stories more because they're in the history books more, and it's changing. We're starting to have more access to the other stories that maybe weren't written as much at the time. And the reason I believe that where we are as a society now is a much more equal society is because of these people that overcame things, and they've made a step forward in progress somewhere. And then, we grow on them, we stand on their shoulders. And so I'm just so grateful to be a part of that and to be a part of helping educate others about these people. And another thing I want to say about my work is I do feel pretty spiritual about it. And so when somebody does buy a print or a painting that I've made, because it is still my income, I notice that they have a connection to that person. So maybe they have that, for example, it's not Charlotte Bronte that I was just showing you. This was commissioned originally by someone who's really moved by her work. So now she'll have a picture of her in the house, almost like a little saint, I guess, like someone that sort of blesses that part of the person's life that they want more of. Maybe it's expression in writing for this person. And so, yeah, that's the personal part of my work. And then Kevin asked a couple of questions too, just about how, how it's succeeded so well. I have been asked to be in various shows. I just started doing things sort of in libraries at the beginning. You saw in the video, I was in a library with my daughter with a show there. And that's what I envisioned. I thought one day this could be in libraries or schools. But then I started having more, prestigious places call me, like the Women's Museum in San Diego. There's a women's museum, a women's history museum, and they gave me a show, and I got some cool attention, from some nice, like the Guardian newspaper, or I guess it's a newspaper, online, and I started somehow this story just got out internationally, and I started to do more exhibits in like universities and, like I said, the museum. And that was all like right before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, I had a show at a university, and that night, because the universities closed a little earlier because there were so many people, and that was it. I thought I'll come back in a couple of weeks. I'll show it a couple of weeks. Never went up again. We just took it down, and only now, 2 years later, am I starting to like be invited to speak again. And so it's it's almost like I've just gone into this place where I have to put everything out myself online, one person at a time. Like, so, you know, I'll just show you a card. Okay, so Helen Keller, I have a little card. You can buy all these things on my website if you're interested too. But you know, I just put one person out at a time. I feel the story, I tell the story. But what I really love is when they're all together. So like you can kind of see here, I tried to put some behind me. Can you see me in them? The computer closer, yeah. So when they're together, here, I'll hold it there. There's a few of them there. It just feels to me more, it's like what I'm really going for. It's like the cloud of witnesses that I spoke about in the film. I love having a role model, and I love having one story at a time, like a conversation, a friend, one-on-one. But when I see a wall of all of these faces, I don't know, for me, it's just that's what the whole project is about for me, because one is good and one will get you through something. But what's going to get us through everything is this group, the support that comes from so much diversity of character and story. And just, like I said before, it feels to me like the more I can see the group of powerful people around me supporting me and inspiring me, the more I will look for that in the world, and the more I will find it in the world. So that's, I think, what I have to say on that, unless you have questions. I know I have more time.
Anybody got questions?
Yes.
Kelly?
Which, with each of the conversations that you've had with these women of history, which one has surprised you the most with how much they've left? Like how much of a piece of them now resides in you?
That's a really good question. And I have with like, don't listen.
Do like your stuffed animals in your lap. You're gonna kiss them all, because if not, they're coming after you.
You're only one of my favorites. Well, I would say for me, Georgia O'Keeffe is probably the one that I feel, gosh, if I could meet her in real life, that would be amazing. She's a bit of a patron for me, maybe because I'm an artist. But what I enjoyed about painting her was there were so many photographs of her, because her husband was a very famous photographer, and he met her when she was pretty young. So she had all this long life of photographs that she'd had, plus her own art. And she spent most of her time alone, later on when they were still married, but they lived in different parts of the country. And she moved out to New Mexico. For those of you who know Georgia O'Keeffe, she was a very famous abstract painter that, who lived out in New Mexico. So you see the big bones and the desert landscapes in her paintings. But when I realized she'd had this long life, she'd overcome a lot of pain in her relationship, but she managed to keep it somehow. And she also had for her time, it was very, very rare for a woman to, well, for one thing, make a name for herself as an artist. It did help that she had this gallery owning husband. I need to put that on my list. New year. My intentions. So yeah, but there was this realization that for her time, she had made a living for herself as an artist by herself. I mean, she moved out away from the city and lived in the desert, and most of all the work that you'll have seen would be from that time in her life. So she was able to have this rich life where there were all these seasons of it. Like one time she was here in this place, and then she was married, and then she was over here in this place doing it alone. And I find a lot of inspiration. She had a long life, and she just did it her way. And so as an artist and as a single parent, it's really easy to believe that that this isn't sustainable, you know? But then I find people who it was sustainable for, and that stays with me. And then that's where I mark my hopes, you know, that's my faith.
Hey,
So.
Allison, how has this impacted your daughter, your children? What's been the takeaway for them?
Well, it remains to be seen, I'm sure, with my daughter, because she's 12 now and has not a lot of interest in what I'm doing. I think that's why I was crying most watching that video. I was like, oh, she was so cute, still following me around. But that for me, that's another thing too. Just, I'm kind of giving her this, I'm hoping that I'm giving her an awareness that there's so many role models to go from. You're going to be different than me, and there's going to be different times that you and I don't even have anything in common and what we're interested in. But that's okay, because look how much I admire each of these people for being different. And so it's, you know, for me, it feels like I'm hoping that that's what she gets from it, this idea that she can be whoever she wants to be. She can always find somebody to get the wisdom from, you know, in the history books or out in the world. And again, it remains to be seen where she's going to go in her life. But also for my son, I think he's my stepson, but the one that was playing guitar in the film, he's 21 now, and I do hear the way that he speaks about women in his industry. He's in the music industry, and he has so much. He's really careful to be respectful, and I'm hoping, you know, that he got some of that from, you know, some of these stories around here too. So.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to make a quick comment. I think you're worrying a little bit too much about having a 12-year-old daughter, first of all. She wants somebody who will actually love you again. And I think she's got a darn good role mother.
Oh, thank you.
Mother, so, right now.
Hey, Allison, if people are interested in communicating with you further, is it okay to share details, your contact information?
Yes, I have a newsletter, and maybe you could even, if anybody's interested, I'd love to put you on it just to let you know what shows and things are coming up, or, you know,
Yes,
I just write things. That's the best way, I think, to kind of stay up with what I'm going. But I'll, if you just give those to Kevin, I'll, or whoever wants to take them, and I'll take those later. I have a website. It's groundbreakinggirls.com. And that film is on there that you just saw, which I'm really grateful for that film, because it's won a bunch of awards and film festivals, which is, again, another thing I never even pictured happening. So it's been a real blessing. What else is going on? Well, I'm in California, so the things that are coming up here, you might not make it to, but I'm hoping that there's going to be more publication, a book, and I also have like a deck of cards that I'm working on that have inspirations that people can. So that will all be in my newsletter and on my website.
Wonderful.
And if you ever would like to do a charity event, you could do, and you could even do this nationally. You could do, you know, the sip and paint, those things.
Teach other people to,
You know,
That's a great idea. Yeah, I'd love to stay posted on those ideas. Mm-hmm.
People could bring their own, and, you know, you could kind of teach us how to slap some stuff up on the canvas, because we're not gonna do it as well as you are, but, you know.
Yeah, no, I think
People would pay for that, you know.
And I would like to do more of that, because again, I know not everybody, you know, feels like they're an artist or a painter, and it is you know, it is a skill. There isn't some skill involved, but I do love that idea of like creativity as being an important part of people's lives, even if they don't feel like they have the skills. So yeah, I would definitely be interested in that.
We'll get on that.
What about anybody online? Barbara, Allison, Joyce, do you have any questions?
I thought it was just great. The expression through painting and the historical aspect of it in the film where your husband died and then you used that vehicle of art. I was so touched by that. And then also very, very appreciative of the level of artistic ability that you have. And I'm kind of wondering, did you go to art school for a long time before you started this? It doesn't sound like it started out to be your career, but it became your career.
Yeah, I'd always drawn pictures, I doodled and stuff, and there were always pictures of girls and women, like, that was, I just prefer, like, I was better at drawing them, I guess, in school. But I wanted to be an actress. And so I studied that. That was my education and early career. But my father started painting. We'd always been artistic in our family, but my father became a professional painter around the age of 50. He kind of had a new career thing there. So in that period, when I was sort of changing career too, I learned a lot from him. And I did I always took classes. I always sort of did it on the side. I just did it for my own self. I didn't think I would be able to make any money at it or anything. But now, now I can say I have a 20-year career as a painter, 20 plus year. I mean, again, I was in the marriage and having children and not focusing on it so much for some of that time. But it was a real, I would say I'm self-taught artist, but then I think most artists actually are.
Yeah, because it takes a certain amount of intuition to know where you want to make those brush strokes and what
it does. I mean, I think everything in life takes a certain amount of intuition for everybody anyway, whatever they're doing. But I think for me, what I would say, if somebody wanted to be a painter or, wanted to grow that talent in themselves, it's just putting the time in. It really is just a matter of putting the time in. I will never be able to paint the way that I want to in my head. And I see it, I admire somebody else's work. It'll always come out in my own style. And I think all the time that you paint just gets you more used to what that style is, and more confident in it and showing it. So I just think it's just time.
Allison, we got a nice compliment from Joyce online. She said, "So glad I tuned in. Sounds like an artist will be inspired to paint her one day."
Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, who knows? Maybe. Yeah.
Allison Burkett, did you have a question?
Yes. It's such an inspirational story. I planned on being on here for 5 minutes for Taylor's induction. But then I got drawn in by the paintings behind you and got very curious. So, your work is really good. Do you only paint women? Do you do any other sort of painting?
I do other kinds of painting. I have another website, if you're interested, called AllisonAdams.net. I think that they should be linked to each other. That one doesn't have portraits on it. I also do a lot of surreal kind of work, like dreamy kind of, strange illustrations. They're very mystical and playful, I would say, I hope. And so that's another body of work I have. I do for portraits. I can paint men, but I just see myself more in the women, so I feel like that's something I can offer just by being a woman. But I can paint men. It's just they don't fit into my my series as well on Groundbreaking Girls. You know?
I was just curious. But thank you.
Yeah, no, I
That was-
appreciate it. No, but it's true. I find it more difficult. I find painting men more difficult because, and I've heard that about men say that about women too. I guess you're just used to seeing yourself in the mirror all your life. So there's certain things you just do, you know, a little piece of you in there. But Oscar Wilde, the artist or the writer Oscar Wilde had a wonderful quote about how a portrait painted with feeling is more of a portrait of the artist than the sitter. So if you look at anybody's portraits, it's really more, they're trying to get the face, but it's really showing more about who they are.
That makes sense. Thank you so much, Allison. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hopefully you can come back again sometime, or if you're ever in Charlotte, look us up.
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much for the honor of your time. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can we pass our cart buckets up? I think Kevin explained what cart is for those of you who have never been here before. You turn it off.
Just,
And if we can stand and do the 5-way test.
layout options.
Oh, the drawing. I skipped right by that. Sorry, David. Taylor, you want to do something brand new? Okay.
It was nice to meet you.
Well, you know, we're doing women. Susan, can you do our drawing for us? We have a little raffle. Or Jen, I could have, I'm sorry. Let's do you again.
I thought it was the lead.
Right? No, he wins today. So.
9362.
9362.
Look at this guy.
That's a carrot. That's just a raffle that we do to and we keep half the money, and it was a 50-50. For the most part, the winners give the money right back, so it all goes towards donating for other
Folks, before we leave, if we can.
We gotta do the highway test.
I know, but before we leave, if we can maybe put all of your trash and everything on one table so that I can collect it and we can clean up if there's anything.
Can we just get the bags? Are there, oh, she's gonna grab a bag.
Okay, great.
Okay, 5-way test, all the things you think, say, or do. Number 1, is it true? Number 2, is it fair to all concerned? Number 3, will it build goodwill and better friendships? Number 4, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And number 5, will it be fun? Thank you.
Halfway into the summer.